I haven't had an emotional experience like that in a long time. Wow. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. If you're watching this video, most likely you are a Bojack Horseman fan, and today we're going to talk about Part 2 of the final season of Bojack Horseman. I reviewed Part 1. It feels like a long time ago, even though it was just a couple of months, but I've been anticipating this for a long time, and like I said, oh my goodness, what an experience. This will be a non-spoiler review until the main end after I give you my score. Then I want to talk for just a minute about how one particular episode affected me. And of course, I need your comments down below. If you enjoy these videos, if you like these Netflix reviews, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Okay, so Bojack Horseman Season 6 as a whole is all about Bojack inching his way towards redemption as a stint in rehab forces him to confront his mistakes and start making amends. As always, we have Will Arnett, Aaron Paul, the entire cast and crew back taking us on another adventure with this character and with all of the storylines going on that we really started to set up at the beginning of Season 6. Well, really all the way back at the end of Season 5, and progressing through this story in these final few episodes was rough to do. Not to say that they didn't pay off on everything, because in my opinion, most of the storylines, we got a lot of payoff. And I'm talking a lot of great resolution to a few of the storylines, but when you set so many things up with so many different characters, it's a difficult task to accomplish. But I'm here to say, Part 2 of Bojack Horseman, and it's odd to think about it in this way because I feel like these were two separate seasons, but they're not. I don't know if I love the decision to split up this final season. That's still something I find myself, was it a good idea to do that? I don't know. And I get it. You're trying to build anticipation for these final few episodes, but it's such a cohesive story to give us that much of a break in between. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but okay, I can look past that. Not a detriment to the story itself, but oh my goodness. What a show this has turned into. And I remember all the way back to Season 1 when I first started watching this show, and I liked it. I thought it was good. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking, what? It's another funny animated show that is attempting to be deep, and we're hitting on a few things here and there. I just don't know if they're going to continue on, right? When shows start out on a note like that, most of the time, they just end up kind of doing the same old thing over and over. A lot of people say that about Family Guy. Now, I can watch any episode of Family Guy, and it always has me cracking up, but it never goes any deeper than that. And not to compare Bojack to Family Guy, because honestly, I mean, some people will say, well, they're both animated shows, who cares? No, completely different shows, different themes, way different characters. But Bojack is a show that takes its characters a bit more serious, and that's fine if you're looking at a Family Guy. It doesn't have to do that. But it allows us to peel back the layers and learn more about the process in which their mind works. And that's what I feel like Bojack, as a character, not just as a show, has accomplished so well over the last couple of seasons, is we have learned more and more about him through his actions instead of the writing giving everything to the audience and allowing us to figure it out through dialogue. Bojack has a mentality. His mentality now is different than his mentality was in Season 1. That's called character progression, folks. That's called a great story arc to one of the greatest, I believe this is the case, one of the greatest animated characters I have ever seen. And to see this story come to an end in this light, in this fashion, man, oh man, it affected me deeply. This time around, we have a lot of things that are happening, right? We have Bojack's storyline continuing on with, as we always are, trying to live down what happened to Sarah Lynn, except this time we have some people that have evidence against Bojack. Now, we know what actually happened, right? But now others are starting to learn the truth, and Bojack is trying to decide, well, should I come out and tell everyone the truth? Or should I continue to hide this secret from people? And that is really tearing apart not just who he is now, but his legacy. Has what I've done in my career up until this point put me on solid ground that I can never be torn down from? Or are my addictions and my habits and the constant need, not necessarily for attention, but the constant need to prove myself wrong, or at times even prove myself right, is that going to continue to tear me down with my legacy? Is that going to steer me in the wrong direction, put me on the wrong path, and lead to unimaginable things. And I think that's the question a lot of people have coming into the season is, does Bojack make it? Is Bojack still with us by the end? And I'm not going to spoil anything. I won't let you guys know that until we get into it here at the end, where he ends up, both physically and mentally. But, oh man, when you get the answers to those questions, and that's the thing about a final season of any show, you need answers to all of your questions. And I'm not even going to say we get answers to all of our questions, but the storylines close in such a Bojack way. You've got the humor. Now, even though this is a very deep and emotional and impactful season, and I would say there's less humor here. Well, maybe not less humor. I'd say less of the focus is on the humor this time around. You got the jokes, you've got the insertion here and there that can add levity to any dire situation. That's what I think's been so brilliant about this show up until this point is anytime there needs to be something to lighten the mood, it happens. And that's Bojack, and that's why we love Bojack. But this season is no different. But this time around, everything is even deeper than before. We've had the addictions all throughout the show, whether it's alcohol or drugs or people dealing with problems in their personal life, people having kids, and we've seen that multiple examples of that just in the first part of the final season. But now we're facing these realities. We're having conversations with each other, that maybe are tough to have. We have Todd's storyline with his parents, and that comes back into play this time around. Todd is another character I want to talk about. He's got his Todd-isms. That's what I like to call it. He'll say something every now and then. You're just like, that's Todd. And I think that's a testament to the delivery by Aaron Paul. But where he ends up here, somehow he gets there. We saw what he was going through in the first part of Season 6, but where he ends up I thought was really great. It was the most Bojack way to go about it, but I love the end of his storyline. Princess Carolyne, we've been following her for so long. In this part of this season, we're exploring even more, why has she been with Bojack through all of this? What is keeping her around? And she tells him at one point, she's like, listen, I know I probably shouldn't have been by your side this entire time. So many things telling me maybe I'm making the wrong decision. But you know what? They're a team. We know that they're a team. And it's really hard to split that up and separate it, man. Now, those two, a great resolution to that storyline, and especially what she went through earlier on in the season. I would have liked to have seen more interaction in the final few episodes. Now, don't get me wrong. I would never replace episode 15. Let's get that out of the way. This, oh my goodness, the penultimate episode, and that's really been a staple for Bojack. It's always the one before the finale that hits the hardest. And then the finale, in the same vein of Game of Thrones as well, it's kind of cleaning up the pieces that are left or just kind of tying up storylines, setting us up for the next season. But this time around, we don't get that opportunity. This time around, we have to tie everything up. But the good thing about this season is that most of these things, whether it's Mr. Peanut Butter or Todd or Diane, most of these storylines have done all they needed to do prior to the final few episodes. And in those final few episodes, now we get pieces of these other storylines kind of realizing what is happening right now. I'm trying not to get into how they go about weaving time in and out through this final season, because there are times when we skip chunks of time in people's lives. But the final few episodes are devoted to Bojack and picking up all of the breadcrumbs, all of the pieces of where his life is right now. He's in a tough spot. He's never really been a likable person. He's not a person. He's a horse. He's never been a likable individual. But now we're starting to learn that he wants to do it right. He wants to turn a new leaf, if you will. And he's been wanting that for quite a while. It's just like he consistently makes mistakes. But when we pick up in this part of this season, and this isn't necessarily a spoiler, he's teaching a class, and he's learning just as much from that class as they are learning from him. And I loved his reactions to how they treat him in that episode. And then obviously things are going to go awry as we get more. And I loved the interview sessions where he is going about explaining certain things about his past, not to dive too deep into that. But I thought it was so funny the way that they went about that and revealing things to the public. I thought those were fantastic. Where his career goes was great, but it's the relationships where all of those relationships end off in this final episode. Well, in the final couple of episodes, I thought were fantastic. And then to hit on episode 15, the penultimate episode, which was just, I will talk about it at the end with spoilers. Everything I needed from the show. Everything I needed. And they went about it in such a way that I've never really seen before. Well, possibly live action, similar things done, but never in animation. It is so distinct from anything else I've ever seen on television, and it could be my favorite episode of the show in general. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. So, overall, non-spoiler review, don't want to dive in too much deeper, but Bojack Horseman, obviously, if you're a fan of the show, you're going to watch this season. But you're going to have that question going in. Is part 2 of this season, well, first of all, is it better than part 1? And second of all, does it pay off? And there are still a couple of things that I maybe needed from the characters, but honestly, guys, those are nitpicks. This show was incredible this season. And as a whole, I know it's difficult to judge because I did part 1, took a break, part 2. As a whole, actually, before I give you my score, if you guys enjoyed this video, as always, be sure to hit that thumbs up button and stay tuned because I review all of these Netflix shows every single weekend on this channel. We have a lot of fun. But I thought this season was just outstanding, and maybe it's where I just watched these 8 episodes and I'm not factoring in part 1 as much, but I don't care, man. I'm going 95% for this final season of Bojack Horseman. Everyone was asking me, Austin, where's Bojack in your top shows of 2019? Well, we only got part 1. Now we got part 2. I will be shocked if this gets left off my top 10, my honorable mentions, man. It's just so great with what they did with this character. I loved every second of it. Now, to hit on episode 15, so the entire time we kind of know what's going on, right? We kind of understand that Bojack is dead, and what they've been teasing this entire time with Bojack falling into the pool, it turns out, well, that's what happened, and he's having these conversations with everyone in his life. I mean, the obvious ones, sure, but even with his mom and his dad. I thought the conversation with his dad towards the end there before he inevitably gives up and allows it to consume him. I mean, he's facing death here, folks. And the whole time we think he's dead. The whole time we think Bojack is what are they going to do with this final episode? And they could have went about it in a way just wrapping up these other storylines, and man, but they got me. And then we start out the next episode, and they keep teasing us. They show the newspaper. It's like Bojack. But it's not our Bojack. It's like the Bojack Dark Universe has been canceled. It slides over, and Bojack Horseman's still alive. We're great. And it shows him in the hospital. We think he's dead there, and they cover him up. And there's so many opportunities to actually kill out this character, and a lot of the predictions that I saw said that Bojack was going to die, and heck, at one point, before episode 15, I'm like, yeah, he could die here. He could allow his addiction to consume him, and that would have made sense for the character. But no, they give Bojack the opportunity to, one, talk to everyone that he needs to talk to in that episode 15. I mean, all of these characters, down to the minor characters that we barely got to see in other seasons that are dead. And then we learn that it's just his mind playing tricks on him. They're not actually there. This is just what it's projecting for him to see before he dies. And man, oh my gosh, I get chills just thinking about it because this is so deep for an animated show. This is so much more than what a lot of people anticipate from Bojack Horseman. And if for some reason you haven't seen Bojack Horseman and you're listening to me right now, listening to spoilers, let me tell you, go watch this show. Go watch this show. It is so much more than what you anticipate, what you expect. And the episode 15 was fantastic. Like I said, episode 16 wraps things up, and they're sitting there having that conversation at the end. We just stop, we get a chance to look at their faces, allow everything to sink in, settle in, the music picks up, and we cut to credits. And I just, man, what a wonderful, wonderful job, a wonderful payoff for a great show. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Stay tuned. This weekend is the Movie House Awards, where you guys get the chance to pick the winners. You're truly the best. I'll see you soon.